So find your meditation seat, whatever that is, our asana, our seat. So you want to get grounded in whatever is supporting you, a chair or the floor or whatever, and feel the support of that physical experience of having support, of the body being carried by the earth or by a chair. And also feeling the uprightness of the spine, encouraging uprightness, which encourages alertness, but also a sense of relaxation, as we always talk about that, finding the balance among those three things: the grounding, upright, relaxed. Closing the eyes if that's comfortable for you, or if not, just having a soft gaze and not looking around and being distracted, but just coming into this moment, letting it all go, letting everything else before go, and just be here. And the bell will take us in. So with the fading of the bell, we just bring our awareness to this mind, this awareness. How do you know that you're here right now? What's the sense of being here? Do you feel it in your body? Is it a narrative that you're telling yourself? Do you feel it in the changing breath experience? Can you come into directly experiencing what's happening right here, right now, in whatever way you experience it? Maybe the sensation of the feet on the floor or the hands resting in the lap, that pressure lets you know, yes, I'm here. Or maybe it's the breath, that sensation of the body receiving energy, or letting go of the energy. How do you know you're here? And so it's this awareness that lets you know that you're here, right? So what is the awareness knowing right now? Is this body sensations? Is it the breath? And really letting the mind rest there in this direct experience with gratitude, right? We're aware it's like this. It may be that the thinking mind doesn't quite want to let go of anything yet. It's wants to remember something from the past or get still caught up in what we were talking about before we started this meditation, or you're thinking about what you're going to have for lunch. Just notice if the mind wanders off and then encourage it to just come back to this direct experience of the mind knowing the body, feeling the sensation of the hands and the feet, of the breath, whatever directly connects you to this experience of right here, right now. And let the mind rest there with whatever lets you know you're right here, right now. Maybe it's the breath, maybe it's changing body experience. What lets you know you're right here, right now. Maybe the mind wants to add something to this experience. Maybe it's gotten distracted by a thought or a body sensation or a sound or whatever. You can just notice that too. If the mind wants to add something, you can just notice that, notice the effect of whatever the mind has added, and coming back to just being present with whatever's happening right here, right now. This body, this breath, this awareness, this curious observer, aware of what's happening right here, right now. Noticing if we're still present with a direct experience right now, or if the mind's wandered off, as it likes to do. Just noticing if that's happened, what the effect is on the mood of the mind, and re-inviting the mind to just be curious about what's happening right here, right now. Noticing the changing conditions right here, right now. Body sensations, the breath changing. Maybe sounds coming and going. Maybe a thought will pop up, but just being with it as it all happens. The mind just knowing. It's like this. Then we can notice if the mind's gone to sleep, or if it's gone off thinking about something, or if it's still present with this embodied experience, knowing what's going on right here, right now. Just noticing what the mind's doing. Noticing the effect on the mind and the body, and coming back to this direct experience of knowing. Changing experience moment to moment, body, breath, whatever your meditation object is. And maybe invite the mind to just be aware of the breath if you weren't paying attention to it before. And just take 3 intentional breaths, a deep inhalation, and then a slightly longer exhalation. Deep inhalation, longer exhale, deep inhale, longer exhale. Let go, just be present, noticing how the mind is, how the body is. It's like this. The bell can transition us from that meditation. Gradually bring the awareness back to the surface, and then eventually opening the eyes and just being present with all of us here again. So I don't know if it's coming through, but they're mowing outside of where I live. So hopefully it's not too disturbing. Another opportunity for practice, as we say. So today I wanted to talk about our mindfulness practice and how it allows us to work with painful experience. And I always talk about with my friends, I say I'm not really teaching, I'm just sharing my practice with people. So here I am, I'm sharing my practice. So for the past 2 weeks, I've had 2 bouts of diverticulitis and a lot of pain, and it's been really, really interesting. And a lot of us are dealing with pain. That's in this community, a lot of us are working with that. And whether it's that physical pain in the belly or wherever, like I was feeling it, or whether it's mental pain of depression, anxiety, the pain of the state of the world, whatever. I mean, it's just, how do we use the practice to be with pain? And we've talked about this in other classes before, but a number of you are new, and I thought it would be helpful to revisit it for that reason, because we are all experiencing, whether it's physical or mental pain, just as human beings, it's part of our experience. But also it's what is in my mind. So I'm sharing with you. And the reason I'm sharing it is because what I've been going through the past 2 weeks has just reminded me of why I do this practice and why I share this practice. Because a lot of it was pretty intense, a lot of abdominal pain, and I had to stop eating, and then the weird mental stuff that comes with no food, it's whatever. You don't need to know all the details, but it subsided, and then it resurfaced with a vengeance. And finally Wednesday night I had a huge fever, and the mind was spinning out in a story, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? This is what the mind does, right? And then I'm like, okay, what's really, the mindfulness kicked in. I'm like, okay, what's really going on? It's like, okay, your temperature's elevated, your body's doing what it's supposed to do to fight this bacteria. And so, can I just be with it and not add the layers of, oh my God, what if it's really drastic, and whatever, all the layers I can add to it, knowing what the possibilities are. And it's at night, there's nothing I can do. I suppose I could go to the emergency room, but what would that do? So anyway, I got the mind calmed down. So I was just with the sensation, and then, and I could just calmly know what's going on. And when I calm the mind down, like the intensity of the pain diminished, and I could just be with, like, this is how the body is in fever and pain, without adding to it, and not getting pushed around by those sensations. And so whether it's that physical pain, or whether it's getting pushed around by the news stories we hear, or by our constant anxiety about needing to do whatever's on our to-do list, whatever it is, what I've been through this past couple of weeks just reaffirmed, like, I can't imagine having gone through this without the practice, without being able to come back to the stability of it. Otherwise I would have been in the emergency room for no reason. I mean, it wasn't an emergency. It was just uncomfortable. So, and I finally went to urgent care. I got enough clarity. And then Thursday morning, I'm like, okay, it's time to go to urgent care. And I went to urgent care, and I got antibiotics, and now I'm on antibiotics, and, it's getting resolved. But, I was able to calm myself enough so I could decide what I really needed to do, and also observe what the mind was just creating a storm about, And so again, whether it's physical pain or whether it's mental pain, it's that being with, it's the core of our practice. And it's not being with, like, okay, I'm going to endure whatever's going on, but we want to be with it with calm and clarity, not adding to it, but just knowing, like, what's needed right now. Is anything really needed, or is it just like this and it's going to move on? And knowing the difference. But it's when that story kicks in, I don't know about you guys, what your experience is, but the story is what's lethal for me. So it's really interesting. And then I came across an article about a interview with Bruce Springsteen. I'm assuming everybody knows who Bruce Springsteen is, rock and roll star, you know, like this guy is just dynamite, but he suffers from major depression. And has his whole life. His father had it, you know, and so it's part of his gene pool. And he's, you know, the strength of who he is, he's figured out ways to work with it. He, you know, he takes some meds, but he also described it. And this is our practice. So this is how he says, just naming it helps. What most people tend to want to do is when they feel bad, the first thing they want to do is name a reason why you feel that way. I feel bad because, and then you'll transfer that to somebody else, because Johnny said this to me, or this happened. And sometimes that's true, but a lot of times you're simply looking to name something that's not particularly nameable. And if you misname it, it makes everything that much worse. So my skill is sort of saying, okay, it's not this, it's not that, it's just this. How many times have you heard me and Nancy say this? It's just this, right? This is something that comes. It's also something that goes. And maybe something I have to live for with a period of time. But you could acknowledge it and you can relax with it a little bit. Very often it shortens its duration. So he's doing the practice. I don't know if he calls it that, but he's doing the same thing we are, you know, being present with it, noticing that if we don't make a story up about it, these painful things can move, you know, but when we keep adding to them, that's when they stay. That's when they get sticky and really hang in there. So I don't know about you guys, why you're here every week, but that's why I do this practice, you know, because I've found that it's really helpful. And the past couple of weeks have just given me more confidence. Like every moment where my mind does come back to just awareness of what's going on, and then I can just be with it, it gives me more confidence that I don't have to be pushed around by my experience. And then I can bring in the curiosity. I can really notice what's going on. So when I do go to the doctor, I can say, this is exactly what happened. This was the progression, rather than just going in and saying, it hurts, do something, you know, not helpful. So the same with whether we see our therapist or whether we talk to a good friend, you know, it's the same thing. Can we be clear about what our actual experience is? And can we know what we need to do, if anything? Or can we just be with it and watch it change? So that's a lot of blah, blah, blah. But that's what I've been sitting with the past couple of weeks. And the reason I tell all this about, you know, I don't like to talk about myself very often, but it's what inspires me to do this practice. Right? And I want to inspire you guys to keep doing it, but you have to practice. It doesn't come by itself. You know, when we're in the middle of a storm, that's not the time to try to, you know, come back to awareness. And that's why we keep doing this practice. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. So let's practice. Okay. So let go of all the words, all the blah, blah, blah. And just come into this body, this experience right now, you know, re-grounding yourself in your experience. The embodied experience, direct experience of this mind in this body right here, right now. And again, grounding physically and what's supporting you, the uprightness, the relaxation, inviting curiosity, patience, kindness. We'll let the bell transition us. So with the fading of the bell, it's our invitation to set an intention for our practice. And I would suggest in this meditation, just like many other times before, the intention is to be with our moment-to-moment experience, physical experience, mental experience, being with this ever-changing moment-to-moment experience with awareness, noticing what's happening right here, right now, and also noticing how the mind is relating to that experience. That's our intention. And for a meditation object, you can go with whatever you normally use for a meditation object, or maybe just use what we call open awareness, which is just the awareness receiving moment to moment experience, whatever the mind is aware of. So sounds, physical sensations, the breath, the heartbeat, thoughts coming and going, body sensations. Can the mind just be with noticing this ever-changing experience? And if that doesn't work for you, you can just be with the breath, the changing nature of the breath. So setting your meditation object, and inviting the mind to just be aware of what's happening moment to moment with our meditation object, with interest and kindness. And we can check in with the mind and notice if it's with this changing experience of breath, or if just thoughts, sounds, sensations coming and going, or if it's wandered off, planning, thinking, dreaming, sleeping. Just noticing what the mind is aware of and how it's relating to that experience. What's the mood of the mind? It's gotten caught on something. What does that feel like in the mind, in the body? If you're just with changing experience, how does that feel? Just watching things come and go. And then resetting the intention, just be with this meditation object, this moment to moment experience. Noticing the changing experience and how the mind relates. Noticing what the mind is paying attention to, how it's relating, what the mood of the mind is. Is the mind adding anything? Just noticing the effect and then resetting the intention to just be with moment to moment experience. Noticing what the mind is aware of, the mood of the mind, if there's anything being added, the effect of that, if it is. And then inviting the mind to just be with this, be with the present moment experience with curiosity, patience, with interest, moment to moment, changing experience, the body, the breath, the thoughts, all of it is coming and going, changing if we don't hold on to it. What is the mind aware of? How is it relating? Is it adding anything unnecessary? Notice the effect of that if it is. And can we reset the intention to just calmly, patience and curiosity and kindness, be with this changing experience, knowing moment to moment. It's like this. It's like this. Noticing what the mind is aware of, how it's relating. Is it bored, restless, interested? Is it adding anything? And noticing the effect, whatever's happening on this mind and this body. And then going back to just being aware of being with moment to moment changing experience. Gradually inviting the mind to come back to the more embodied experience, more to the surface of the sensation of sitting here, supported, this groundedness. Just reflecting on what our experience was in this meditation. What did we observe about the habits of the mind, where it likes to go, what the effect is, and where did the mind stay interested and curious and had the opportunity to observe maybe cause and effect. what felt beneficial. And then bring the awareness back to the breath, taking 3 breaths. Consciously aware, it's like this right now. And gradually just coming back to the awareness of being here on the screen, being together. And again, this practice is our training, this noticing what the tendencies of the mind are, what the effect is on the mind and the body. This is our training. And the more we can observe what's going on, it gives us more confidence that we don't have to be pushed around by physical and mental things, that stuff still happens. It doesn't change, it doesn't make the world all lollipops and roses, but it's like we can be present with it, not be pushed around, and know with calm and clarity if there's anything that we need to do. So whatever you noticed in that meditation, maybe take into your everyday life about what your tendency of your mind is. This is where the practice really is in everyday life. So I encourage you to do that. So this ends our session. So thank you so much for your practice.